So I'd like to introduce you to the sound system at Bonners Ferry Adventist Church. So when you walk up the stairs, you see this system. When you first approach the sound booth, you need to turn on all of the devices. This one is first on, but last to be turned off. Let's start here. As you can see, we've turned on all of these devices, and these devices, but we haven't yet turned on the amplifiers, and that's here. Notice this says last on, first off. We'll turn that on second. Down here, most of this stuff we just leave. We don't need to do anything with. It's equalizers and amplifiers and things like that. So we'll just shut this door. Now, the next thing that we can do is turn on this computer, and it's, if you put your finger behind, there's a little dimple back there, press it once and that will turn on. And there we go. And then this will turn on. So these screens are controlled by these two devices. This device determines what goes on to here, and this device, this device determines what goes on to the screen in the front. And also, it sends the audio signal to the board right here on all video. So it's track number 7, all video. Whatever is selected here is the video device that's being broadcast over the audio panel. So you'll notice there's a few. Computer, that's this computer here. And then the desk is an HDMI cable. Oh, here it is, right here. HDMI cable that's connected here at the desk. You notice there's a VGA cable here as well. We don't use that anymore. And then there's over here an audio cable. It was not put back last time, and a USB cable. We're not using this USB cable right now. It used to be used for a clicker, but we found it better to put the clicker out in the open, so we don't use that anymore. So you've got your computer, the desk, which is the HDMI cable that's right here beside the switch here. There's VGA, that would be this VGA cable, again, mostly unused at this point. There's the DVD player, and that is this Sony DVD player. And then there's the podium. There's an HDMI plug at the podium, but you have to take an HDMI cable down there if the presenter has a computer they want to use. So essentially, it's just click the button and it switches to that source. This again is the output to the projector. This is a multi-output switch. So each of these outputs can select an input. Right now they're all on computer. But let's say that we wanted the confidence monitor, which is the TV that faces the stage on the back wall of the church. We want the confidence monitor to show the DVD. So this is the projector, that shows a DVD. The confidence monitor shows a DVD. Now let's make sure the live stream can see the DVD as well. And then the desk monitor. Let's make sure the desk monitor can see the DVD. Now, right now the DVD isn't playing, but I'll just go ahead and turn it on over here, and you can see that that's the output, or the input that it shows. Now I'll switch the desk monitor back to the computer, and you can see that transition. So we can switch these back to the computer, but each output source that you want will require you to switch the video source here. This down here, we don't do anything with. It's set the way it needs to be. We just kind of leave it alone. course, over here we have the lights, and the lights control the now we like to leave these up, so when anybody's turning on or off the lights downstairs, up is on, down is off. Okay, CD player, we don't typically use these, but there is a CD in there that you can play. And let's come over here to the soundboard, and I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. So up here we have a few settings that we have them set pretty much the way we like them. We don't typically play with that. If you do want to play with it, it'd be good to explore the manual of it. Otherwise, leave all of these settings as they are. Now our board is divided into these 8 tracks, 16 rather, 1 through 16. And at the top, we have our trim level. And this is probably too hot for the prayer mic. Trim is the essentially the amount of gain that you have from the mic. And then down here we have our sliders. Typically, you want your mic to sound just right at unity. And so you bring this up to unity, and if your mic is overpowered, then you drop down the trim just a little bit. If your mic isn't powered enough, you bring up the trim just a little bit. But what happens is if you have this slider down and then you try to bring up the volume with the trim, then you're going to hear some squeaking and squealing and popping. So you don't want to adjust your trim unless you're at unity with your slider. These are equalizer settings, and these are equalizer settings. So you can see your high, your mid, and your low. Typically we try to leave those alone unless you have some serious muting or weird noise or something like that, or like if there's some high pitch that you have to cut out, you can kill some of the high by dropping that down a little bit. But generally we leave these pretty much as is. If you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of mess things up. Up here we have our different, oops, there we go. Get that light set up so that it'll stay put. Up here we have our different like auxiliary 1, 2, 3, and 4 outputs. And well, if our auxiliary outputs end up in the basement and the hallway, and so pretty much everything needs to have an auxiliary out. This one is the floor mic, and so the auxiliary was set to nothing because we don't need the floor mic, which kind of broadcasts the audio for the audience. So the coughs and the laughs and the responses and the singing and whatnot. We don't need that out in the hallway and in the basement, so we can leave that one down. And let's see, this one is down as well, but it shouldn't be. It might have used to have a need, but the red wireless, we can go ahead and bring that one back up to the same as others. And then this one is down as well, which is interesting. Oh, that's the effects. So effects is kind of it's a special board, and if we play with the effects, we get kind of a reverb, is what that's designed for. Most of us don't tend to use that. If you know what you're doing and you've got somebody on singing on a mic, then you might want to play with that. So on the bottom right here is our master volume, and that we like to keep about at unity. and then the lobby and hallway are these two channels, 3 and 4. So again, we can keep these right at unity. If you are hearing, like if you have somebody saying, oh, it's too loud down there, you can drop these down a little bit. But often these aren't loud enough down there. So leave them up, and they have the ability to control a speaker with a volume knob down there, so they can adjust up or down if they want to. Here, this button is a solo button. And what that does is it allows you to put on your headphones and to listen to just that channel. So if you're trying to figure out where is something coming from, you can solo that and be able to hear it on the headphones. But it does need to be active in order for you to solo it. So let's say we've got the blue and white mic up, and we're hearing some squeaking. Then you might want to solo one and then solo the other, just to find out which one it is that's squeaking. And then you can maybe adjust the gain down a little bit, or try something to make that squeaking go away, like play with the high end on the equalizer or something like that. These are pan. We always leave this one up because panning is left and right, and we want to keep that straight up and down so that it has a stereo channel. And then down here, this line is a mute button. So if you click that and the red light comes on, even if you're up here at unity, you won't hear this channel on the speakers because you've muted it. And so check that if you've got a mic that you want to use, but you want to be muted until that person is active, then you can just bring it up to unity, put the mute on, but then you have to be aware, oh, I've got to unmute that. So some people like to just drop the level down so they know that it's not being used. Trick is finding it. Oh yeah, this is the one. Sometimes you put the wrong one up and then have to hunt for it. So it's good if you have, let's say, the two wireless mics down there. If you have those up and then you just mute them, and then when the time comes that you've got the prayer going on, you can unmute these. And then when they are no longer being used, you can drop the levels down. There is this low cut button here on the bottom. It's like a low cut filter. We just leave those in all the time. Also, these guys are selecting which channels go to these mixes. So I could have the main mix. Which is this LR, only using some of these, and other mixes being affected by these 3, 4, and 1, 2 mixes. So, for example, if we wanted to, we could put a translation on one of these, right? And instead of all of these going to the translator, maybe we only want to send the this red wireless is typically the speaker. It's an overhead around the ear wireless mic. So maybe that one we want to isolate to channel 1, and so all of these would be up, deselected, right? Except for the red wireless. And that one is the only one that would be going to a translator. So that's kind of how that would be used. We don't have any specific application like that. So all of these are down, and whatever output that we want to add to this this mix one would have all of these channels going to that mix, just like all these other channels have. I think that's it. Oh, I should say what these are for. So these are, notice that this has a bunch of different effects. And so this is an effects with a couple processors. This is an effects board. Whereas this one is a, oh, I forget the name of it. It has, oh, that's it right here. It's a compressor. So a compressor will kind of limit the audio volume at a certain range of values. So let's say the high notes or the low notes or the mid notes or whatever, it'll cap it so it can only go so far. So this one's set up for the podium, and this one's set up for the wireless headset, which we have set for the red wireless because that's the one we use for the speaker most often. And so those compressors just help make sure that we don't end up with any popping or the peaking in the system. So that's an introduction to the audio side and the video switch side. There is one other thing I should point out over here on the video side. This device is a light dimmer. And so if you drop this down, it's dimming the podium lights. And so we're only using the first two because we only have two sets of podium lights, but we can add more to it if we wanted to. All right, so that's an introduction. Hope that helps. And I'll do another video on the computer and another video on equipment.